Padme Om Mani Padme Om Mani Padme Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. This morning we're going to meditate few minutes. So after that, Sai Maharjan is going to give a Dhamma talk. After Dhamma talk, question and answer. The final item is chanting. So right now, Venerable Panyaloka is going to lead the Metta meditation.
Take a moment to relax yourself, and now we are going to practice the loving kindness meditation. Breathe in and breathe out slowly. Only if you are comfortable, you can close your eyes and continue the meditation. Breathe in and breathe out. Before we are going to practice the loving kindness meditation, experience the bliss of silence. And relax yourself. You can spread loving kindness thoughts to the whole universe. You can begin spreading loving kindness thoughts to the whole universe from yourself. Spread loving kindness thoughts to yourself first, then to your family members, friends, and every being in the universe. Practice these loving kindness thoughts. May my mind be filled with the thoughts of loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. May I be free from enmity. May I be free from ill will. May I be generous. May I be gentle. May I be relaxed. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be healthy. May my heart become soft. May my words be pleasing to others. May my actions be kind. May all that I see, hear, taste, smell, touch, and think help me to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. May these experiences help me to cultivate thoughts of generosity and gentleness. May they all help me to relax. May they inspire friendly behavior. May these experiences be a source of peace and happiness. May they help me to be free from fear, tension, anxiety, worry, and restlessness. No matter where I go in the world, wherever I live, may I greet people with happiness, peace, and friendliness. May I be free from greed, anger, aversion, hatred, jealousy, and fear. Spread these loving kindness thoughts to your family members, friends, relatives. May my parents, brothers and sisters, well-wishers, relatives, all those who are indifferent to me, be free from enmity, ill will, and grudge. May they all be happy, healthy, and peaceful. And like this, practice loving kindness thoughts for another few minutes in silent meditation. Once you hear the bell, you can stop loving kindness meditation just for now. May all beings in the universe be well, happy, and peaceful.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Panyaloka, leading the loving kindness meditation. Before we start our Dhamma talk today, I just want to mention one thing. You see, one of our good friends, Nam, he's not here today because of his sister was sick, and I saw the pictures. She was in the hospital. We wish for her speedy recovery. And right now, the time for the Dhamma talk. Today, our speaker, Dhamma teacher. I should use the professor, but I like the Dhamma teacher to use. Dhamma teacher, Sai Maharjan. He's our good friend. He's here. So, Sai, you can come and give your talk right now. By the way, he's a university teacher, professor.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Venerable sirs, dear Dhamma friends, first of all, Happy New Year. I think the year is still new. Last year, in our Dhamma meetings, I talked about the Abhidhamma teachings, the Buddhist psychology, for 12 months. I think 11 months I missed one meeting. I didn't miss it, Bhante skipped mine, one of the talks. But this time I was getting some topics ready, so I decided to use a chapter from the middle-length teachings. It's Majjhima Nikaya. And there are 10 teachings on similes, which is very interesting because you will learn about different way of looking at the problems, and Buddha is very good at using examples, similes and metaphors to explain Buddhist concepts. So I chose that, and if you're interested, I'll share with Bhante the 10 suttas, and you can read beforehand and have a little bit of a background knowledge when you come to attend this Dhamma discussion every second Sunday. So I want to ask Panyalog Bhante, right, before I talk, to what extent should we practice loving kindness, Bhante? Like, here's another way to ask that question. You can answer too. So we're supposed to practice loving kindness, right? Which is the opposite of hatred. You try to show that you can tolerate, you're patient, and you show that you're not affected by other people's action. It could be harsh action or speech or anything. So what extent should we practice Bhante? You can skip the answering, but any thoughts? Let's say if somebody's pinching you, can you keep practicing loving kindness? Or somebody punch you, so should you be like, may you be well, or you just punch back? So that's my topic today. Because to what extent should we practice loving kindness? And this sutta I chose for today is Kakachupama. It's the simile of the saw. So you can make a sense, right? If there is saw involved, there's more than pinching. So the Buddha has given this talk. It's a long sutta, but I'll give you the background. There was a community, monks and nuns living together, community, and when somebody criticized a group of nuns, the monks, one particular monk named Pagguna got upset. Why would you criticize nuns? And vice versa. When somebody criticized that monk, the nuns would get upset. And this story went to the Buddha. You can read more about this story there, and Buddha used this moment to talk about to what extent you should be tolerant toward others' criticism. So that's where this sutta comes from. And one very common, and the reason I chose this sutta is one story that really sticks out for today's generation, for us, is this lady. She was very famous as a patient lady. Her name was Vedehika. That's the name in Pali. She's from Videha, so that's why she's called Vedehika. She was very famous. She's a landlady, and she was known as a patient lady. And I'm sure you have somebody in your life, or maybe yourself, known as you're very patient, right? As long as you're not being put against any adversities. So she was known as a patient lady, and she had a worker. And this lady, this worker's name, maid, she was Kali. Her name was Kali. And Kali, out of maybe boredom, she wanted to test her landlady. I want to see how patient she is. Is she really patient, or she's patient because I'm doing everything according to her needs? So she wanted to test it. It's a long story. What she basically did, Kali did, was instead of waking up on time, she slept in 1 hour next day. And Vedehika went to Kali and asked, why were you late? How come you're still sleeping? And she had no excuse. Oh, nothing is wrong, nothing is a problem. I just wanted to sleep in. And Vedehika was a little impatient. Kali noticed that. I want to test this a little further. So Kali slept in a little longer next day. And the lady, the landlady, was a little more upset. She yelled at her this time, yelled at Kali, and the following day, Kali slept in until the noon. And Vedehika lost it. She took a rolling pin and whacked on her head. So Kali realized, she is not really patient. It's because I'm doing everything right. That's why she was known as patient. So that's persona of patience was there. And Buddha used this story to explain. Sometimes we might seen, or if sometimes we ourselves are not aware what is our level of patience, how much we can tolerate, how kind we are. As long as there are no any adversities, you may be seen as kind, compassionate, caring person. But when you face adversities, challenges, that's when you really get to know the person's actual patience. And in that sutta, later Buddha reminded us there are 5 types of criticism. So I want you to remember them for this new year, right? If you face them, and remember Bhante Panyaloka's loving kindness guidance. So you have to be mindful, practice loving kindness when you face these 5 situations. So one of them in Pali, it's kalena va akalena va. You may face criticism. That is, sometimes it's timely criticism. And I can use my class, the teaching setting. If my students submit assignment, if I give them feedback, if I give them verbal feedback, that would be timely. But 2 years later, if I see the same student and I criticize about that 2-year-old assignment, that would be untimely. So criticism could come timely and untimely. And in your life, whatever setting you're in, you may get those timely and untimely criticism. And Buddha reminded you, if you want to be called the Buddha's follower, or you're trying to practice what Buddha taught, in Pali it's called sasana karo, then you have to be mindful of those criticism and not lose your composure, not be unkind. And the two terms in Pali was used, unaffected by those criticism. And the other one is not say anything harsh or hatred word toward those individuals. So when you get timely and untimely criticism, that's one. Number 2 is bhutena va abhutena. Sometimes people criticize you because there was an actual reason. So that's bhutena. Something happened. You did something wrong, you did something less than perfect, you will be criticized. Or sometimes you did everything right and there's no reason to be criticized. You will be criticized. So that's bhutena and abhutena. There are factual and non-factual criticism. In those times, can you keep practicing your loving kindness? Like Bhante said, can I be unaffected by those criticism? That's the second one. And third one is sometimes criticism could be sanhena va parusena. Sometimes it could be gentle. nice word. It could be email, it could be phone call, very well composed criticism. You can take it, but sometimes people can't. Sometimes it could be very harsh. You may not like it. Sometimes people might call you names or call you out on your flaws. In those situations, can you keep practicing your loving kindness? That's the third situation. And the fourth one is atta sahitena wa anatta sahitena. Sometimes you receive criticism that they really care about your well-being. They want you to prosper. They want you to succeed. So those are criticism based on your well-being. And sometimes they just want to put you down. There are criticism that's not helpful at all, not going to build you up. And in those situations, can you remain kind? Can you continue practice loving kindness? And the last one is metta chittena wa dosa sahita. So that means sometimes people criticize with loving kindness. And Buddha used to do that. Even the Buddha has criticized his disciples when they engage in wrong behaviors. And sometimes there are criticism that is purely hatred, purely based on no any care or love, but hatred. So those are 5. So timely, untimely, with fact and with no fact, harshly and gently, for well-being and for not well-being, with loving kindness and with no loving kindness. So those are 5 possible criticism we could face. And sorry Bhante to put you on the spot. So the loving kindness should go that further. And at the end of the sutta, Buddha said, even in the moment when somebody is holding your both arms and trying to cut your limbs with a saw, can you remain mindful? Now, don't ask me if I could. I can't. I'll run away. So I'm not there yet. But the point is, the Buddha wanted to remind us, loving kindness is not just about closing your eyes and repeating those words. Ahang awero homi, abhyapajo homi, anigo homi. In Pali or in English, may I be free from ill will, hatred. We all can do that. And the funny stories I had from when I used to be monk, like there was a very nice, honest person. We practiced loving kindness at the end of 30 minutes meditation. So I used to teach mindfulness. And he comes to me and, Bhante, every day I practice loving kindness. I include everybody except for one guy. I can't stand that guy, so he's not in my list. So it will be hard, right? Even mentally, just to forgive somebody is really hard. And if you know how humans are evolved, I teach this in my psychology classes, we're not designed to forgive. Forgiveness is not human nature. We're designed to survive and thrive, right? If you know fight, flight, freeze instinct, and there's another F, those are meant to keep you evolving and surviving. So forgiving is total opposite. It's not instinctual way of like somebody did hurtful things to you. The human nature is to take revenge. That's more humanly. Forgiving is hard. And when somebody asks you to have loving kindness, it's harder. And especially include those people who have malicious thought toward you. And in Dhammapada, there's a gatha, there's a stanza. What do you do if you cannot forgive somebody? There are a couple tips I'll share with you, and I'll conclude my talk. One of them is when you are dealing with a lot of challenges. It could be financially involved, emotionally involved, reasons that you could not forgive somebody. And in those moments, you can reflect on death. And not to scare you, if you didn't know, I'll break the news. We're all going to die one day, right? It's going to happen. And if you reflect that day is coming, every day we live, we enjoy, hey, this is New Year, this is my birthday. We should be more sad because you're approaching the end of your life, your death. So Buddha reminded those individuals who struggle forgiving others, think of death. In the face of death, all those grudges, anger, hatred should mean nothing. And in Abhidhamma, there is a nice explanation what happens in the moment of death. When you are close to the death, you're not going to remember how much money you have in your account. You're not going to remember how many awards you received. What happens is the most highlighted things that happen in your life, mostly emotionally involved, will be playing like a videotape. It will be reflective. You're not doing consciously, it will be reflective. And one of the thoughts would be the base for your next life, because your consciousness needs a base for a new life. And imagine you've been hating somebody for many years. It's very likely that hateful thought will arise. And if you ask Bhantes, there is a tradition in Sri Lanka, in a lot of South Asian Buddhist countries, if somebody is dying, in the process of dying, we invite monks. And they come to the sick bed and they chant. And my friend Leon, he asked the other day, what is this chanting? It's the word of the Buddha. We believe that when somebody speaks the truth, there is some power. And we're reminding, it's a very kind words. When you look at the chanting, all the words that you see, those are a collection of kind words. And you reflect those kind words, you think of the Buddha, you think of those moments. What you're trying to do to the person who's dying is remind them of those positive experiences. Maybe he or she has done some events in life, maybe not immediately available to her memory. So you try to remind them, hey, these are the things that you've done. And in old stories, Dudu Gammon, right, one of the kings, he had a book called the Merit Book, not the merit that we know here, the meritorious deeds. So it's a pimpota, right, Bhante? So they used to have a pimpota, the books of merit, and the king used to write all the great things that he has done. Not the conquering countries or killing people, but his service toward religion. And he has collection, and he asked somebody to read the book. The whole point there is, when you are closing to death, you don't want to think of some hatred, some anger, and depart from this life. And that's where I like to tell people, nobody defines your future. Nobody defines your next life. You do. You choose to make whichever thoughts stronger that will influence your last moment of life. And another tip to get rid of those strong, hateful thoughts, that I should mention this, that there's the different levels of hatred, the negative thoughts, not hatred. First is dislike, something it's not according to your taste, you dislike it. It's not bad. But when somebody keeps pushing you those distasteful things, that dislike turns into a little bit of anger, right? You get a little annoyed, there's a little anger. And when anger is rotten, it turns into hatred. And when hatred is very bad, then you wish for someone's death. It's called vyapada. Vyapada is aversion. So dislike, anger, hatred, and aversion is the worst. And aversion is very powerful. In Pali texts, there are some similes used as a piece of cloth with a stain. When you leave a piece of cloth wet, I don't know what's the term, it gets little
Milded?
Yeah, molded. Yes. Milded. So what is it? Milded. There you go. You get it. So you cannot wash it off. You have to cut it off from the piece. The same example is used to talk about aversion. It's very dangerous. It's not just like you don't like the person, you hate the person. That is the thought to the point you wish for death to that person. It's very dangerous, very harmful. And that's why we don't want to get to that point. And all the practices, whether it is loving kindness or mindfulness, we're trying to check ourselves and reflect ourselves. Do I have any of those thoughts? And if you think of those 5 moments of criticism, you might catch 1 or 2 of those in your life. So the second tip is, how do we forgive somebody who has done a lot of bad things to you? And this could go sometime, unfortunately, some people may have abused emotionally, sexually, physically abused. How do I forgive them? And the Buddha's tip is those individuals. So if you have really hard time forgiving somebody, think of that many lives in samsara. We have been, if we meet this time, and I believe that we've met before in previous lives. It could be in many different forms. We met before, we had some kind of relationship. And Buddha told, imagine that person. It doesn't need to be true. Imagine that person was your mother or father or brother or sister. Would you continue to hate that person at the same level? Now, this is not trying to, be that passive or let go of any mishappenings, but it is to protect you. It's not about the other person. Loving kindness never cures your family member's illness. You can't. And if you thought that if I just give loving kindness to my mother or father, they will get better. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. That's not how Buddhism works. You have to practice yourself to get the benefit. So loving kindness, when you practice, you're trying to help yourself not to have those strong thoughts. And thoughts are just a reflection of yourself in a mirror. You replicate them again and again when you think about them again and again. That's how it becomes stronger and harder to let go. And as long as you're mindful of that, and I think I might have shared this before, if you put a dog or a cat in front of a mirror, they see their reflection and they think the person is still there, or the animal is still there, right? They walk away, but still they believe it's still there because the impression of the reflection. And having anger towards somebody or something is similar. If somebody did something wrong to you, you continue to make multiple copies of it. You have a single piece of paper, it's easy to shred it. But if you keep making multiple copies, that will be really hard to shred. It's the same thought. The original thought was the same, but you kept thinking about that person again and again. The same incidents you replay, and we're really good at telling complete stories. You may not even know the full story. You tell that story again and again, and it makes a big, thick encyclopedia of hatred, right? It's really hard to destroy, and that's what makes our, not easy to let go, not easy to forgive. So coming back to full circle with Bhante's practice, loving kindness should be practiced in all forms. So when you speak, you make sure that you speak with that kindness toward that other person. You're trying to help the person. You act, you do something, you're doing with that kindness, loving kindness, that you care about the person. And having a thought with that intention to help other individual. And there are a lot of benefits, and one day we will talk. There are at least 10 benefits of loving kindness in Mettanisangsa Sutta. And I'll tell you the most appealing one. You will look beautiful and handsome. So keep practicing loving kindness. Thank you so much. I'm not joking, it's there, right, Bhante? Mukhavanno vippasidati in Pali. You will look beautiful and handsome. That's the benefit of loving kindness.
Thank you. So if you have any question, any comment, so we have time, we can discuss about.
Thank you so much for your very wise talk, and I think it's very needed in the times we're living in. And it's a great reminder that Buddhism is a practice, that all elements of it have to be practiced or be aware of. And I don't think I'll reach perfection at all in this lifetime, but it's good to be reminded that it is a practice. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Shraddha. Yes, Russell.
No, thank you. But we are surrounded by so much. I was going to ask you, what is the place of revenge? Because we are surrounded, for instance, of course, in the Hamas-Israeli thing, everybody wants revenge. I don't think there's too much loving kindness, except maybe from doctors or maybe aid workers. But is revenge ever justifiable with loving kindness or not?
No. I mean, justifiable, I don't know what that means. If you practice loving kindness and you continue to have revenge, Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
No, that doesn't work, because there's a story about how long it continues. Sometimes I think of that when I hear Israel and Palestine conflict. It's generations now. I was very young when I heard about these conflict, and I'm in my 30s. I still hear it. I think it will continue. And the conflict between Muslim and Hindus in India, that is over centuries old, that continues. And it will not end until one person drops. One person gives up. There's a story, not only in this life, the many lives that you continue to take revenge, because hatred begets hatred. It will never come to a conclusion like, okay, one person wins and there is the end of hatred. It will repeat. And that's the nahi vere na vera ni sammanti de kudachana. That's the universal teaching. Only by non-hatred you can end the cycle of hatred. So revenge is, I think, worse. And what I hear more dangerous is, I don't know how to put it, but the media, social media, and I'm not with anybody, but the United States stands versus non-United States allies stand. It's just making it worse. We will destroy each other at one point, unfortunately. And what we see, I'm on the news sometime, is people are instilling this hatred to a person that you've never met before. That's more dangerous. You're instilling that, patriarchal, ideologies against these groups who are so innocent, who has nothing to do with this conflict. And I heard this, one of the analogy about what Hitler did. He instilled disgust toward Jewish people. That's very dangerous. It's not just hate, it's not just revenge. Like, you look at the humans less than what they should be, what they are. And that's very dangerous. Unfortunately, the world leaders, those who have power, I'm not very educated on that, but none of them have a plan to resolve the issue. There's greed involved, right? There's power, and whatever they say, we have to be very careful where you stand. And I think I might have said this before. I cannot change the world. We cannot do much. We can only change who we are and how we respond to them. So, and yes, that's a. You should ask the United Nations that question. It's hard.
So what is the suggested way to deal with difficult people? Like, I have an example of neighbors who let their dogs continually defecate on the property, and it's just, you ask them nicely several times, and they don't, and eventually it's like raw, and sometimes it works though. But I know that's not, like, what is the Buddhist loving kindness way of being towards situations where you have continuous difficulty with the same thing?
Well, I think I don't want to underestimate the wisdom part when we talk about kindness part. So compassion, loving kindness does not mean you're just kind and you're not wise. So there are times it's a two consider like two legs. You need to have both of them functional. One is wisdom. So you have to assess the situation and you have to address accordingly, not just always be kind. So if you just be kind, and people will take you for granted. So definitely address, definitely report if you need to. I report if somebody does that, because if it is wrong, they should be made aware of. But there's a difference. You do that with anger, hatred, versus I really want to resolve this. I don't want this to continue. So there you have that kindness in you, but you're not being passive about it. You address it, you make them aware, and that could be in relationship too. So use your wisdom, use your resources to address it. But at the same time, you're not trying to hurt or put somebody in trouble.
Right, or become very angry or screaming,
I think
basically.
it will just destroy your peace.
Yes.
Right? It will destroy your peace, and is that what you want?
No.
Or you want to resolve the problem? And especially when people are angry, they're less logical. Right? You may say things wrong, and that could lead to another
Yeah,
another
exactly.
complex problems. So that's where this wisdom comes handy. You take the right action. And I learned recently, and somebody is parking in your space for X number of hours, I am kind toward that person, but hey, don't violate the rules. Buddhism doesn't go above and beyond law. So we follow what's law and rules and regulations are placed, but I think in some I can say in the process of solving the problem, I don't want to lose my peace.
I think that's
Yeah.
the key right there,
Yes.
which is tough.
Yes. I think you will be happy that even you tried, sometime it might not go away, but at least you didn't lose your peace.
Yeah. Making the effort
Yes.
towards that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Sai, for your talk. I think it's a wonderful topic to touch upon, and I just had some thoughts, coming at it as a Westerner. I think one of the concerns that comes up for many Westerners who come to Buddhism is that sense of like kind of the dummy compassion, the stupid compassion, the dummy loving kindness, because in some regards, some of us might have taken that on as that's what it means to be in a world without conflict, without any animosity, is to, many Christians will know, to turn the other cheek, as an expression from
Yeah.
the Bible. The idea that if someone strikes you, you just go, okay, go ahead and hit me again, right? And there's no attempt to preserve or protect oneself. So, I was very glad to hear you say that, like, yeah, but, that doesn't mean that you just let stuff happen. You just make sure that whatever you do, it's of benefit to others, and you go about it in a way that's kind.
Yeah.
And I found that to be extremely important. I also wanted an attempt to answer the question you posed earlier. I didn't answer before because I wanted to give Panyaloka a chance, but he wisely kept silent, and I'm not as wise as him. But the answer to your question is that the Buddha encourages us to develop these Brahma Viharas limitlessly, without
Yes.
limit. And so I found that very same nature in your talk. So thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you, Subodhi. Yes, that's a missing piece, and when you are learning the Buddhist way, and I think I'm gonna encourage Bhantes too. When we teach loving kindness, I also want people to know, have a little bit of mindfulness at the same time, have a little bit of wisdom. And if you read some of the Buddha's stories, you find him a little rude, and it's not out of anger. That's the only difference. You can discipline your child. When I say discipline, literally I mean discipline, not like the connotation. You're hurting the child. You try to tell your child what is right and wrong. You can do in two ways. You're angry, you're upset, your blood is boiling. You can yell at your child. You're disciplining. Versus you care about the child. You don't want that child to repeat the same mistake in the future, get into more trouble, and you might be harsher. You might use strong words. You might say strong things, but it's coming from that kindness. And Buddha is the second parent. He would use strong words. He would use logic. He would use reasoning to explain the right and wrong. And he would be very blunt about it. And that's very important when we try to be kind. Kind, like Subodh said, it's not like a dummy approach. It's not about like, oh, I just want to be kind to the world. That doesn't work. That means you're blinded on one side. You have to use both sides. Yes, the wisdom is very important. We read, we assess the situation, and we say things, we do things. It's hard to judge. It's hard to measure whether you're being kind or not. It's only you know that it comes from that kind-heartedness. But you're trying to address the situation and continue. Otherwise, I don't think you can be a Buddhist, because you will be taken granted. You cannot follow Buddha's teaching. You're only learning one side. So hopefully, some of the stories might help. So read some of the stories that Buddha has to be very strong. And I do plan to talk about even about speaking. Sometimes people don't know, do I always tell the truth? That's a tricky place, right? You should tell the truth, but there is one sutta, I plan to talk about it in a future meeting, like what if that could hurt somebody? What if that could bring some disadvantage or some trouble to other person? It's a very difficult place to be. So we'll talk more. Thank you, Bante. I'll stop talking.
Can I add something?
Yes, Bante.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Sai. I really like how you put the importance of having wisdom and compassion balance. It's very kind of important, I feel. Someone said like compassion without wisdom is like a kind-hearted fool. Compassion without wisdom, and only intelligence. I would say like the wisdom, the negative side is like without compassion is like kind of hard-hearted individual. So thank you so much to reminding us to balance both compassion and wisdom. Thank you.
So thank you, Sai, again for your wonderful Dhamma talks. So we turn for page 4 and page
10.
Namo
Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Saranam Gacchāmi. Dhammaṃ Saranam Gacchāmi. Sanghaṃ Saranam Gacchāmi. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them all. Dharma gates are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find health relief. Neng di du kong dok po kap nya di nhai dang du chung sangye nhai kong tai pa Sangye Nyai Gong Tai Pada Neng Di Du Kong Duk Ko Kak O Nya Di Nyai Dang Du Chung Sangye Nyai Kong Tai Pada Om Mani Padme Hum.
Thank you again for everybody. I think we have tea and cookies. And next Sunday, Subodha is going to do a Dhamma talk. So please come and join with us also. We have parking available back of the Ananda Hall. It's open around 10:30 every Sunday. Thank you again, Sai, being with us today. And by the power of the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, you all be well and happy.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.